Hi, my name is Christy Griffith. I'm coming at you from Orlando, Florida. I've been a homeschool mom for 14 years and I have been a working woman all my life. So I wear a lot of hats and I'm really empathizing with those of you that have suddenly become homeschoolers and you're a working parent as well. Firstly, I want to encourage you to watch my first video on So You've Been Forced to Homeschool. Watch that video for just a little bit of mindset. And now let's delve into home educating your elementary school student. This is such a precious age. So our goal at this age is threefold, which it always, if you listen to my last video, you remember me saying that our first goal is to help them to develop a love of learning. Our second goal is to give them the tools for how to learn. And then number three, it's always to be a good person, right? It's about virtue, it's about truth, it's about goodness. That is what education across the board, however you choose to educate, that is what it's about. But you've had to bring your little elementary school student home who is not yet an independent learner. They're still relying on you. By age about 5th grade, you'll feel that tension with them where they're firing you as the boss of their life and they just simply want you to manage it. That's because their neurons in their brain are starting to fire a little bit differently and they're starting to analyze their world. And then as they become high school students, they're really starting to take ownership of their world. But at the elementary age, they're not really there yet. It's basically just the facts, ma'am, right? It's I don't need to know the how or the why. I just really need to know the what. So I want to give you a couple of different scenarios here because I don't know what your home is like right now. The basic rule of thumb is to take your child's age and add a 0 onto it. And that is the number of minutes that they need academic work every day. So I'm not really talking about extracurricular activities or other various learning things that they might do, but simply really just academic work, okay? So if you have an 8-year-old, put a 0 after 8 and you get 80. 80 minutes is a good amount of time every day to spend on academic work. You don't need really a lot more than that. So if you are sitting in front of a computer because you have an expert teacher or classroom teacher that is online with your child in a classroom setting. I'm sorry, my dog keeps barking out there. I don't know if you can hear it or not. But if you have that scenario, I encourage you to sit with them and attend to their work as much as possible. That's going to be a really difficult situation and scenario for your young child to be there. So as much as you can attend to them, great. You don't have to do it 100%. But as much as you can be with them, that's wonderful. And every day, I encourage you to give them something to look forward to. So either you determine that or with your child, you guys decide something that they can look forward to every day while we're on this lockdown and having to school virtually and remotely. Now, when it comes to the worksheets and things that they have to print out. I don't know what your teacher is going to require of you, but here's the basic rule of thumb for the elementary school student. Education is, number one, a conversation. Education is a conversation. So after they have listened to their teacher's instruction, ask them, what did you learn? Or what did your teacher talk to you about, or what instructions did your teacher give? Have them narrate back to you as much of their learning as possible so that you can catch what it is that they understand and that they're learning. That narration is incredibly important. It's also very important to realize that at this age, if they can make it through 6th grade with mastering the 3 R's, you're really ahead of the game. They need to be learning how to read, how to write, and how to do simple mathematics. So the basic subtraction, addition, multiplication, and division. That's really what you're working on accomplishing in these little years, and to attend to as much as possible. So really, if you are not having to sit in front of a computer, if your school just went, you know what, we're just going to finish the rest of this year. Here's some things that you can do or you don't have to do, or we're not going to give grades. I frankly would just spend a lot of time reading. A lot of time reading. They can do some copy work. You just put a passage of something in front of them, a poem, a scripture, a document of some kind for them to copy, even the newspaper. But I encourage it to be good writing, good literature. Put a book in front of them and say, copy this paragraph. Just having them do copy work is enough. And then the basic mathematics. Now, if you have a K through 3 third grader, you don't even really need to do math on paper. Doing it with blocks, with manipulatives, with an abacus, talking about numbers. You can say, we're going to talk about the number 3 today. Now, do you see how open-ended that is? And then they begin exploring their world with 3. Well, there's 3 wheels on my tricycle. That's 3. What would happen? Then you can even take it into some simple math. What would happen if I put 3 blocks in a row and I added those together, or I multiplied those together? How is that different? Because now that's still the answer 1 if I multiply them together. Talking. Education is a conversation. And you are the expert on your child, so you know what kind of conversation is going to work for them, right? Now, if they do have to do worksheets and fill them in, and they're really struggling, they're either really struggling with writing, they're struggling with spelling, they're struggling with getting the thoughts from their head to the paper, ask your classroom teacher if it's okay if they dictate those answers to you and you write them down. Listen. It is more important to spell the word for them. If they're doing a fill-in-the-blank social studies and they have to write down Seminole tribe, it's more important that you spell that for them than them having to recall the information, recall the skill of writing, taking my hand to the paper, and how to spell it. That uses 3 different parts of their brain. So you can imagine they're jumping from one area and then they have to retain what they took over here and then they've got to jump to the other area. That's a lot of jumping around their brain. So it is really okay for them to dictate to you the answer and you write it down. Or if they're supposed to write it, it's really okay for you to spell it for them. That's okay. It's not a spelling test. Give them as much help as they need at this age. If they're 5th or 6th grade, you could go look it up in the dictionary. They have the tools to teach themselves. So remember that the 3 goals of education are love of learning, and if they have to be jumping around their brain all day long, they're not going to love learning. They're going to love going outside. So I was outside with my husband the other night and he goes, oh, look at this. I really seriously felt like I was with a 3-year-old. He looked down at the ground and there was a group of ants carrying a dead centipede across the sidewalk. Now this was fascinating to him. And I thought, you know what? This is the way kids are. Kids love to attend to things. That is what they love at that age. That's what we have to capitalize on. Where are they right now? That's what you want to capitalize on so that they continue to love learning. And then you go, well, let's go look this up. How can that centipede... Now, it was my husband I said that did this, so I didn't talk to him this way. But if it's your kindergartner and you're attending and observing things outside, hey, let's go in and Google this and see what this is. Or they find an interesting bug. Let's go Google that and see what that is. And then this can turn into a whole reading, writing. You can incorporate this into math. Well, how many of those? Okay, so so it's a cicada. Oh my goodness, it's a cicada. So how many legs are on that cicada? Well, it's an insect. Oh, it has 6 legs. How many legs do 2 cicadas have? So then now you're doing math all of a sudden. So if you don't have really strict guidelines from your school or your teacher, and you've got to be turning this in and that in, attend to things. And this fosters, my friends, the love of learning, because we want to give them the tools to love learning and to learn. So if they've got the 3 R's, if they're taught to enjoy the present moment and what's around them, then they have the tools for learning, they have the love of learning, and education and discipline in the mind and the body creates the virtue and the good person that we want to see in the future contributing to society, right? So at the elementary age, if you're allowed to, write it down for them on the worksheet, unless it's a writing assignment where they have to be writing. Spell it for them, for goodness sake. That's a different part of the brain. And if they do have to turn things in for the teacher or sit in front of a computer, then attend as much as you can, but really create an atmosphere where they have something to look forward to. They have some movement time, and please, no longer than 50 minutes at a time in front of the computer. 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off. And if you have a 6-year-old, that's basically their whole school day. So don't be fearful of this. I encourage you to say that this will not go on forever. You're only doing this for a very, very short period of time. Now, if you find that you want to continue homeschooling in the future, reach out to me, Christy Griffith, down there in the comments, and we can have some personal conversations about this. You know your kid. You're the expert on your kid. The expert in the classroom is an expert on content. But what is content? Content is what you need to know when you need to know it. That's what it is. So if they have the tools to find content for themselves, they're going to be lifelong learners. So enjoy this time at home and see if you can focus on relationship and conversation more than on content and the pressure to have to do busy work. If you have any other questions or comments or need help in any other area, I can hook up with you and just comment, and I'll let you know how we can hook up and discuss some of those things. So this is Christy Griffith in Orlando, Florida, wishing you well, safety, and health.